Hello Internet, I'm Jackie Fox, and today we're going to talk about free units. And I want to kind of update my previous free units guide with this, with the caveat that I'm not going to talk in detail about the units in the same way that I did for that video, just for the sake of time. And I'm probably not going to format it as much. This is going to be more me looking through my account for those units that were free that everyone should build if they have the opportunity. But there are several different types of free units, and Slime, Lucio, and I think Prince Mont are all examples of units that are completely no strings attached free. You can get all of the things that is required to build them, either from a challenge board or some sort of a mission or something. And that's especially important for Lucio, who really does kind of deserve his own video. But let me briefly look at what makes Lucio cool. If you haven't already seen my Lucio video, or my Lucio missions series, I mean, if you've seen that, you've gotten pretty familiar with this kit, because the missions guide you and kind of force you to use pretty much everything that's in here, including the calibrations. But really, you're going to have luminous conditioning, and then you're going to have what I have equipped right now, which is Illumined Swordsmanship. You're more offensive, and you're more defensive. And after playing around a bit, I actually kind of like luminous conditioning over that. So I'm just going to switch that out. In terms of, well, actually, let's look at main job. Main job. So, a lot of Lucio's stuff is going to deal around critical, which is really cool for him because there's a lot of ways to raise critical. There's a lot of ways to make critical more likely, and there are a lot of things that can give you bonus effects off of critical, which is why I really love. I mean, there's a lot of equipment and kind of a growing amount of equipment because it seems to be a new niche that's expanding with new equipment, especially with plus 6 stuff. You're looking at the Thornlet, you're looking at the Sortilege plus 6. All of that stuff works really well on him. But this is also going to raise his own critical damage for 3 turns, so when you're trying to beat certain missions that you need to do a certain amount of damage, that can be really helpful. He can also break barriers, dealing damage. He can also raise slash and dark resistance in a aimable kind of box AoE pattern. Then we have our chaining move. This is going to be really huge for PvE. This is essentially like Drain Rush without the drain, so it's kind of just rush. This is his kind of basic attack, and it has a very high chance of critical hit, so again, another way for him to work off of newer critical strategies, but it also reduces defense, which is often pretty helpful, again, in PvE or PvP often. This is kind of his basic buff. It is his selfish buff. It is the one that he's less likely to use, but it is very good for him and gives him agility up on criticals. You're starting to see his theme here. And then here's his big AoE move. It has to kind of be touching him, so the range isn't huge, but he can hit units that are 5 panels away from him with this move. So, you know, it's kind of a ranged move if you think about it. And then let's look at sub-jobs. We have Monk. Main thing here really is going to be store, but unless you're doing this in manual, I guess we have some chaining. It gives him access to strike without the other thing, but really, the sub-job that I think is definitely my favorite for him, I think he makes a really good tank. I think that's kind of what you're meant to understand by the end of his missions to get him to 120, is that he has kind of, you know, after having a really close relationship with June, he has supplanted her as the team's tank. And also kind of DPS when he needs to be. So we're going to see like a lot of the really basic kit. We are unfortunately not going to see a Mortal Spirit. He does not have courage, but I think that his ability to generate hate and kind of have a ranged move that's also very powerful and also a good AoE is a pretty good reason to run the Paladin sub-job. Let's look at his sub-job. Sometimes the set percentage HP recovery, which I think is 25%, is nice. This is okay, whatever. I don't really like it, just run Paladin. For most cases, you want to run Paladin unless it solves a puzzle in one of his missions. That's usually his best stuff. So, enough about Lucio, though, and, you know, again, why I am giving him a couple of minutes, even when I've already told you I'm not really going to be talking much about characters, is that he continues his theme of being completely free into 140, which is going to be really awesome. You can max his stats just based off your effort, not really based off of any sort of resources, just entirely effort. I think that's really novel and unique, and I appreciate it, and I hope that Gooby does more of it. But let's talk about some of the MR units that you can get at all times from the Farplane archives. I assume I don't need to show you where that is. We've got Lisette, who is going to be our lightning physical strike unit. She has a really effective buff for raising physical damage. She is a really cool option for limited strike. Lightning has some really interesting applications in limited strike. She's not Alphonse necessarily, but let's say on a limited team, she could be a pretty good bait in front of some wind strike units. Then we've got Revelka. Revelka actually, I think, is notable. Her Deflagration Blast, which is her upgraded detonation blast as an Energist. I mean, first of all, Energists are pretty awesome, especially in PvP, especially in shorter format combat, especially because of the way that one of their passives works. But Deflagration Blast debuffs missile and magic attack resistance, which are both of the things that she does, but also it makes her really easy to slot on to teams with other missile or magic based fire units. Now that's not necessarily what's coming up for magic for fire in the future, but it does slot her in with some really good units, again for limited play. And a lot of these MR units are really probably good enough to play in PvE. If you need to fill out your team, these are great units. I really love Gafgarian. He is limited, unfortunately, to Final Fantasy Tactics, but his gimmick is basically that he has, at least when his HP is full, he has really high defense and spirit. And impressively enough, and with some really novel builds, you can get this guy up to, I mean, with his HP full, close to 100 defense and spirit, which is pretty absurd. And he has like 3 drain moves, so he has a lot of ways to first blunt that first hit, and then, you know, potentially be able to tank through maybe another or two, because he's still pretty tanky, even though his, you know, maybe his defense and spirit aren't 100 anymore. And then he can just revive himself back up to 100% health and keep going. And that's really, really great, actually, for the selection quests. But limited unit, let's not talk about him. McLeod, oh my god, McLeod's probably one of the ones I use the most. He has a really great main job as a Trick Lancer, but the thing that I really love about him, and the thing that makes him mesh the best with Ice, is his dual gunner sub job, because that gives him access to quad shot. So he's really, really absurdly good at setting up semi-long range chains with Ice missile teams. Although, arguably, on an Ice Missile team, he is the mid-range unit. Although, on a lot of teams, he would be the long-range unit. Rinelle is like Shadow Lynx, only newer. She has better kit in terms of buffs. She's not as selfish of a unit. She's not a single target of a unit. She does have some AoE moves and some really cool AoE moves that you should use. She's a bit more geared to being an evasion unit, but unlike Lynx, doesn't really have as much raw evasion. It's kind of strange. She doesn't deal as much damage, but because she has AoE, she has the potential to deal more damage than Shadow Lynx, being limited. I mean, other than Clairvoyant Astrologer working on her to single target moves. Sorel is a Strider. I mean, she's a Strider. She's not the Swiss Army knife that Resnick the Hoppy is. She's more akin to a discount summer Killfay. And yeah, she has courage removal and all sorts of cool stuff. I believe she gets an upgraded Twisted Shield Breaker. It's just real, yeah, Twisting Dissipator. I think she's good. She's good. For all the same reasons that Summer Killfay is good, she's good. But for all the same reasons that Summer Killfay isn't amazing, well, yeah, let's try not to get her hit, I guess is what I'm saying. Krace can always be obtained for free, even though she's not necessarily one of the newer units like this. And I don't really recommend her very much. She's a long-range water unit. If you need someone for cost-limited water range chaining, she's great, I guess. She's not particularly fast or has the best stuff or is strong in any real respect. Yeah, not particularly great, but you could have her for free if you wanted to, more or less. Oh, wow, this is a free, actually, collaboration unit. And I'm not going to talk about her because of that. Also, free collaboration unit. And speaking of free units, or quote-unquote free units, you can buy Whisper at all times in the shop, much like a lot of other units now. I don't think I mentioned the shop and guild medal units. And I guess we'll see some of the ones that I like the best as we're looking through my 120s. Yeah, this is another one, and apparently she has her Master Ability 2 out now. For the sake of the brevity of this video, I'm not going to look at that, but, you know, Ildir is amazing. If you don't have, like, say Black Witch Helena or Into the Future Sephiroth, this is one of the better just free units for doing crowd control and healing, both in PvE, PvP. Just generally speaking, she's one of the better like support units, and very fast. Fast is a big part of her thing, but also because of that, kind of fragile. Lucio, my boy, good to see you again. Noctis when you get in that 140. Actually, Curry Wazette is one of the units that I would recommend spending your... I should at least show this in this video. I think it'll be easy to do so. As you can see, I've done them all. But I think it's this mission right here. Gets you 600 shards for any MR unit, and then there's one ticket for every element. Curry is definitely one I recommend. He's a good range damage dealer. Fina, kind of being the same thing once you get her 120 open. But until then, she's going to have one of the most powerful heals in the game, strangely enough. Not a lot of casts on it, and this makes her a little bit worse in guild battle because of that, because her fight 2s can be kind of rough without her having heals. Zisa, build for bells, build to 99. I don't know if you want a 120er, but she's one of those free shop units. Dario is definitely one that I recommend for just being generally like kind of the more magical version of all the reasons why Prince Mont is a really good MR tank. It's kind of, Dario is the magic version of that. He gets a lot of long-range modified AoE moves that do all sorts of like status effects like immobilize and cool stuff like that, in addition to generating hate. So he has a lot of really cool offensive long-range ways to deal with generating hate for himself, in addition to having Paladin in his sub-job and a really good anti-magic now Spellblade. Actually, Luartha is a free unit, now that I think about it. She is a shop unit. Yep. I don't super recommend her. She is actually a really good unit. One reason that I would have her maybe up to 99 or level 89 at least for as a new player is because... Nope, build McLeod. McLeod has quad shot. I'm going to shut my mouth. Her quad shot gets upgraded, it's better, but no. Let's face it, Zazan is basically a free unit. Just do the normal summons and you'll, or was it the daily summon? The free summon? That is the normal summon. Yes, you'll eventually get enough Zazans to fill them out. And what else are you spending your R resources on? Phoebe is an SR unit, and she's basically free too. And of all the SR units that aren't Zazan and aren't 20 cost exactly, she's the 40 cost unit I recommend. Like, under 50 cost, Phoebe and Zazan and Slime, I guess, are where it's at. Although, if you are a lightning player, Liarte is pretty good. And a 30 cost, sometimes she fits the gap that others don't. Soma you can get at any time in the Farplane archives as well. She's a bit of a magic tank. She generally can't hit the broadside of a barn, but because she has Kodadama Wilder, I'm going to assume that she has access to at least one. Don't use her against evasion, even if she has single target evasion. dealing with things. She's not really going to cope that well. Also not one of the better units, really. One of the older units of these free MR units that we're talking about. Shadow Link's also one of the oldest free units in the game. I think a little less free than a lot of these other units. You get her off of a really early beginner's challenge board, and you get like, I don't know, a couple hundred shards for her. She can basically solo the selection quest, so she can be a way to make you awakening materials every month alongside. And she has really, really good synergy alongside Renelle and Gefgarian if you got him, because he's pretty amazing in selection quests. Between the three of those, you ought to be able to get to level 10, even if the rest of your party is garbage if you just build them. But really, one of the reasons that she's able to do it is she's just so darn evasive that she can cheese most things pretty much by herself. Yep, my dude. He's pretty dead basic as a paladin, but also he's pretty damn good at what he does. He's the MR Engelbert. You don't think he's a good unit on paper, but like, just because he tanks physical stuff so darn well, you just can't count the man out. He's been here the whole time, and he will probably stay. And I hope they also keep the trend of him being a very, very free unit, to where they give you everything, you know, every time there's a new raise to the level cap, you can get the stuff to get Prince Mont there on a board or something, a challenge, every time. And he's always one of the first to get upgraded. So, cool unit to invest in because of that. Has a strong future coming with 140, I'm sure. Free collaboration unit, haven't got done building. Free unit in the metal shop, pretty cool if you like Earth Evasion. Actually, also a free unit, and I mean, okay, let's face it. Selection quest units are technically free, but once you put the invest the resources into building a selection quest team, you'll realize they are very, very not free. So I'm just gonna kind of skip. Lilith has some amazing AP breaks that can short circuit some of the boss fights in the selection quests. Lavial is a MR Ildira for Earth is how I'm going to put that. Although she is a ninja instead of a healer, she does still have heals. But she also has the ability to deal a lot of poison, which is also a way to short circuit. Hey! They gave us a free 99 Stern. Yeah, new players get free 99 Stern, so technically this is a free unit. I don't recommend him. Let's just move on. I mean, really, if you have vibes with regular Stern, build Earth Catone. She's better. She's better. This is actually Ramada, especially if you love clairvoyant astrologer as much as I do, is the unit that I recommend you go for water from the select tickets. Mashari is a free unit. I definitely recommend building her to level 99 for her. I mean, this is just an amazing heal. I haven't leveled this up? Seriously? Well, I mean, this is Slime Leader. I'm a physical account. I guess I don't have many opportunities to use it yet. I think technically you're free, but let's move on. No, you're definitely free, but limited, so move on. Yep. Free. There was a time when I would have recommended this unit for the potential of his TMR. I think Ravis is looking cooler though with her dream upgrade. Shell's a pretty cool quickener. The Ingus staff is actually pretty decent on the passives and has some potential as a TMR weapon. Actually, Helena Leonis is a pretty dang good healer for an MR wind unit. Nasha's a pretty good tank for ice, but you're probably going for Curry. Ah, you were free, but again, limited. And as you can tell, not particularly a limited unit that I was excited about. We are getting close, though. Select quest units. Them again. Marial, if you weren't building Fina with your select ticket, would be a really good choice. I still would probably prefer Fina, but Marielle is looking good. I haven't seen her 140. I mean, I haven't seen Fina's 140 yet. I think that's part of why I like Mirial and Ravis. They both have really good 140s. Still the only dark tank in the game. Not that that makes him good, it just makes him notable. Also, I believe this is the only sword with, TMR sword with defense on it. Possibly the only sword with defense on it, now that I'm thinking about it. Let's go. What's this? Oh yeah, it's a JP up weapon. Sure. Take it. Okay, come on now. Other units that I would recommend building or are otherwise free. I mean, yes, some of the... Oh, actually, you're a free unit, and I don't really recommend you at all. He's not good. He's not particularly good. I mean, he's a knight, so he has debuffs. I guess he could wear Clairvoyant Astrologer for Armor Piercer to give him bigger debuffs. Just not a great unit, in my opinion. Clearly. Hey, look at that. Let's get Seymour up there too. I don't think I want a sword though. Nope. Oh, you're a free unit and no one wants you. And also, you're only about as free as Shadow Links. So again, only free enough to build you up to like... Well, actually, you're also a Metal Shop unit, so... Of the Metal Shop units, I think you might be the only one that gets a free boost via challenge board and via picking you up that way too, but still not clearly not a priority. Might as well. Actually, I think this was a free unit when she came out. You got your first copy for free. But that's clearly a promotion that has long since ended. But she's not limited either. Though she doesn't have an LB, which is weird. And Corwell is another example of this, being a free unit that didn't get an LB but is a UR, but you can still pull for like normal. It's strange. They were trying to figure out what to do new with 80 cost units, and I don't think they figured it out with that. And I think they realized they didn't figure it out with that, and that's why we haven't gotten any more units like that. Etra is free, and actually, kind of, well, I don't necessarily recommend that this account builds her, but she is an interesting one for Strike. Again, Lisette is pretty interesting for that, but unless you're building Zisa or Slime, then she's going to be one of your only monks, and monks are going to have your only healing and revival moves while sticking within the Strike thematic. Okay, so that should be a pretty dang good list of free units in the game. If I missed anything, then it's only because apparently I had no desire to either pull it or build it whatsoever, or I wasn't playing for it. I mean, you saw my whole account. So, yeah, those are all the free units in the game and why you should build the ones you should build. So, I mean, even though I got pretty loose with the definition of free, like just saying you can get 600 of any MR unit shards. So let me tell you about MR units now. I mean, Phoebe definitely isn't free, but I do recommend her. Out of the lower tier units, she is actually really, really stonking good, especially in limited cost. But, yeah, that's my updated free units guide. And if you want more details, especially on some of the older characters, except Etra, there is a video for that, and you can watch it. But you know what? You know about as much as you need to from this video. I'm not going to stop you from watching more of my videos, my man. Yeah. See you in the next one.